Welcome everyone, welcome back if you watched the video from yesterday. Today we're going to go a little bit further into some of the things that we covered yesterday. And this video is, again, for those of you who might be tuning in who aren't on the teacher training course, this is specifically for people who are taking the Mind Body Green meditation teacher training course. For those of you who might be tuning in just because you're seeing this popping up on your screen, you're welcome to watch it as well, but it's probably going to be pretty boring for you, not particularly relevant. For those of you who are on the teacher training course, definitely check this out. If you're interested in the teacher training course, just hop on Google and check out and just type in Mind Body Green meditation teacher training, and then you'll see the info about this, and maybe you want to sign up for the next session. Anyway, let's jump into it. So, in the last video, I gave some general instructions on how to answer questions for the assignments and submit videos. And in this session, I want to dive a little deeper into both of these and expand on the principles I outlined yesterday with some specific examples. I'm going to examine some questions and meditation teaching assignments from the third module, which is present moment awareness, and point out the important points that you'll need to address when you submit your assignments. So here are some examples for how to give complete answers to the questions in Module 3, in the Present Moment Awareness module. So here are some example questions. One that came up was, I have overwhelming negative thoughts. Can I combat them? There's a student asking this as part of their meditation. So if you think back to the previous video on how to answer questions, I outlined several words that give us a clue into how to answer a question like this and direct us to the question behind the question that the student asks. So when we look at this question, there are a couple of words that should jump out at you. The first one being overwhelming, and the second one being combat. When a student uses words like these, first we need to check to see if the student is practicing correctly. We need to briefly go over the instructions for the technique, including how long to practice and how often to practice. And next, we need to give instructions for what to do when thoughts are overwhelming. So give at least one detailed instruction on the stop method that we covered in the course, the fingernail across the palm method, or the spotlight on sensation method. Very important to give these specific concrete techniques. Another one would be, it's difficult for me to achieve the pure awareness of my breath. How do I avoid falling into the trap of evaluating or judging my experience? And in this question, we notice that the student has used the word achieve. And this signals that the student has an expectation of an experience that they should be having, that they're putting effort into getting to that goal, and that they aren't reaching that expectation and they're judging their experience. Whenever we hear questions like this, it's good to point out the student's expectation and at least one of the many reasons why they may have that expectation. Maybe they've read an article or heard a friend talk about an amazing experience, or had a teacher explain the benefits that would come from meditating. And it's good to reassure the student that while these are usually real experiences, there are many other experiences that they may not have heard of. And that meditation releases stress from the body, and it unfolds all sorts of experiences. Some experiences may be very subtle, but they're still valuable. And we should clearly describe how to practice the technique correctly. Let's say we're teaching Anapana breathing. We would tell the student that in this technique, we sit comfortably, upright, and breathe normally. We gently close the eyes, bring all our attention to the breath. We direct all our attention to the sensation of the breath. If our attention is distracted onto thought, sound, or sensation, we don't mind the distraction. And as soon as we notice that our attention is somewhere else, we let go of the distraction and bring the attention back to the sensation of the breath as it flows in and out of the nostrils. And we practice Anapana breathing like this twice a day for 10 to 15 minutes. And it's through practicing consistently every day, simply following the instructions and letting the experience unfold, that we begin to notice the benefits in our life. So let's jump on to another question. And this is actually one that comes up quite a lot. I've noticed that rather than becoming more resilient through meditation, I'm feeling more sensitive and emotional. Is this normal? And here again, I want you to really to notice the word normal following the description of the feeling, of feeling more sensitive and emotional. When we hear a student ask if an experience is normal, we need to clearly go over the instructions of the technique. And so we need to reassure them that, that they're practicing correctly. And this includes going over the instructions for how long and how often the student should be practicing, especially when the student indicates that they are feeling more emotional. It's normal for a student to feel more emotional, but sometimes it indicates that a student is meditating longer than instructed or more often than recommended. And this can cause roughness in the experience because the body releases stress too rapidly and it feels uncomfortable. A lot of students think that more is better. So if a little meditation causes good results, then more meditation will create even better results more quickly. But there is definitely such thing as too much meditation. I recommend that beginners do no more than 20 to 30 minutes each session with 2 sessions per day. Anything beyond this can cause you to become overly emotional, sensitive, and erratic as your mind and body clears the residual effects of past stress and trauma at an unsustainable rate. It's different if you're attending a retreat where this rapid release effect may be desirable. In a retreat setting, you're supervised by an expert teacher who can monitor you and make sure you're doing okay through this process. But in normal home practice, meditation should feel easy and feel good. Overdoing it is similar to an amateur fitness enthusiast trying to deadlift a 400-pound weight on day one. It's not a great idea. It's also good to go over the instructions for what to do if emotions become too overwhelming while a student is meditating. So you should briefly describe the stop method, the fingernail across the palm method, and also the spotlight on sensations in the body method. So I want to go through now an example of, in a bit more detail, of how to submit a teaching video in the present moment awareness module. So we'll look at Anapana breathing in particular, and here we'll be going through, really just kind of focusing. I want to give very clear instructions for you on how to do that specific practice. So we'll be going through all sorts of things like how to sit and what the specifics of the method are, and also just kind of the overview for you as a teacher about how you should be approaching submitting the video in a bit more detail. So yesterday we covered some of the common things about submitting videos, but here we're going to go into it a little bit more. So let's analyze how we teach Anapana breathing. So it's really important that we introduce the technique. Now this is specific for Anapana breathing, but this is going to be general. You can apply these generally to the other practices as well. So first we introduce the technique and we give some basic instructions before we close our eyes to meditate. This allows the student to get used to the sound of our voice and gives them a little peek into what they'll be doing during the meditation. In the introduction, we clearly state the name of the technique and give a brief description, and we let them know what to expect. In my video, I named the technique and explained that it's not difficult, but it's very powerful. Then I jumped into some basic instructions on how to sit. I gave details, how to stack the shoulders, how to hold the back. I told you to sit upright and unsupported. This was a key instruction for you as experienced meditators. If you're teaching students who are new to meditation, it's important to give some variation to that instruction in case the student needs to sit with support to be more comfortable. The introduction and instructions before we close our eyes should be between 90 seconds and 2 minutes long. Then we close our eyes and go right into the meditation. So then we begin the meditation. So notice in the video as I give instructions, I demonstrate what the student should be doing. I close my eyes and then say, with the eyes closed, bring the attention to the breath coming into the nostrils, then I breathe in. I say the breath going out of the nostrils, then I breathe out. Throughout the meditation, notice how I repeat and demonstrate my instructions. My inward and outward breaths give the student time to practice and time for silence between instructions. I speak slowly and keep a steady volume. I remind the student where to keep the attention and to breathe naturally. I demonstrate this by breathing easily. I don't hold my breath. I don't force my breath. I don't shorten my breath. I breathe naturally. Let's talk a bit about spacing of silence and instructions. So as we begin our instructions with eyes closed, silence comes with the inward and outward breath. After about 3 to 4 minutes of steady instructions, we introduce longer space between the instruction for silence. We give a short instruction, then 20 to 30 seconds of silence. We give a short instruction, then 20 to 30 seconds of silence. We give a short instruction, then increase the silence slightly to 30 to 40 seconds, then 40 to 45 seconds. We space the instructions with these longer silences about 4 to 5 times before we lead into a few minutes of silent practice without any instruction. And we begin this longer silence by explaining that we'll be practicing without any instruction for a few minutes. As we teach beginners, we only need to give 2.5 to 3 minutes of silent practice to allow students to feel this deeper awareness of the present moment. So let's look into coming out of the technique. As we conclude the meditation, it's important that we gently reintroduce our voice. We ask the students to continue to sit with the eyes closed, and slowly, as they feel ready, to open their eyes. This is again a good time to demonstrate. As teachers, after we have given the instruction to sit quietly for a minute or two with the eyes closed, before opening our eyes and opening our mouths with more instructions. In this Anapana breathing meditation video, I closed by telling you what to do as students in the teacher training course. So, for the instructions after meditation. When you teach, especially when you teach students who are new to meditation, it's important that you give a recap of the technique. Cover some of the things that may have come up during this practice and instructions for how they should meditate in the future. It may go something like this. The technique we just practiced was Anapana breathing, a form of present moment awareness meditation. With this technique, we bring ourselves into the present moment by bringing our awareness to the breath. We focus the attention on the sensation of the breath as it flows in and out of the nostrils. If the mind wanders to a thought, sensation, or sound, that's okay. That's a normal part of meditation. And when this happens, we simply bring our attention back to the technique. We bring our attention back to the sensation of the breath as it flows in and out of the nostrils. This technique is about the return, coming back to the technique, coming back to the present moment. We don't mind thoughts, we just come back to the breath. And as you continue to practice on your own, it's good to make this meditation a regular part of your routine in the morning and evening. It's best to practice twice a day for 10 to 20 minutes. If this seems like a lot, you can start small and work towards meditating longer. So this would be a good approach, a good way for us to introduce Anapana breathing. And if you go through the video that I've posted, then you'll see that I've put all of these principles into place. So part of the work of being a student on this course is to make sure that you use all the resources available to you. So that means, in addition to watching this video, go back and watch the videos of me teaching meditation, not only in the teacher training course, but also in the Essential Guide to Meditation, which you also have access to. And notice the way I space things, the way I do my pauses, the teaching methodology, as well as the actual instructions itself. Because a lot of being a good teacher is about the way you teach in addition to what you teach. And that should be as much a focus for you as the specific content that we are covering. It's also good, as a supplemental thing to go and find recordings of real master teachers and listen to them as well. Some that I've particularly gotten a lot of benefit from listening to. You can if you Google Vipassana and S.N. Goenka, S.N.Goenka, the most famous popularizer of Vipassana meditation. There are a lot of MP3s that you can download from the official Vipassana meditation website of S.N. Goenka himself teaching Anapana breathing. And you can listen to the way he is such a master teacher. He's internalized all of these different principles, and if you were to get a stopwatch and time his pauses, the way he phrases things, you'd see that he's putting all these principles into place. And in fact, all master teachers are doing this, whether consciously or unconsciously. And for those of us who are aspiring to be as good as they are, then it's our work to find that knowledge for ourselves and learn how to emulate it. So I'll end there. I'll just say that I'm wishing you all the best on the course. Many of you are doing fantastic work. I'm really enjoying a lot of the submissions that you're putting in. I've seen also a lot of students who have dramatically improved their work from when they started, which is actually, I want to emphasize that this is actually something that I love to see. I love to see people who start out really well, but it's just as gratifying, if not more so, to see people who are starting off a little shaky, but with some feedback, are dramatically improving as well. That means that the course is actually working and that you're really taking in the information that you're being given. So I very, very much appreciate all of those students as well. Many of you are doing some really fantastic work now, and I just encourage you to keep on going. Most of you who've started in the early part of this year are almost getting close to the finish line of the course. So that's fantastic. And some of you who've just signed up, you're just beginning to get into this stuff yourself. So just carry on and keep submitting stuff. And I can't wait to see some of the work that you do. Thank you so much, guys. Thanks for tuning in. And I'll be speaking to you again soon.